Explosion in Luhansk. Possible assassination attempt on Russian-appointed official. Already volatile situation in eastern Ukraine's Luhansk region saw another spike in tension when an explosion occurred at the residence of Yuri Afanasevsky, an official appointed by Russia in the occupied territory. The blast, widely considered an assassination attempt, is a focal point for both Ukrainian and Russian news outlets, though the narratives diverge on the gravity of Afanasevsky's injuries. Russian media outlet TASS shed light on the incident, suggesting that Afanasevsky had evaded grave injury. However, they acknowledged that his son had been hospitalized, implying a more dire situation for him. Quoting officials from the self-proclaimed Luhansk People's Republic LPR, TASS presented the idea that the explosive was unmistakably intended for Afanasevsky. In contrast, Ukrainian narratives hint at the possibility of Afanasevsky being in a more critical condition than Russian sources convey. Artem Lysohor, the Ukrainian chief of the Luhansk Regional Military Administration, utilized the Telegram platform to comment on the incident and raise questions regarding the severity of Afanasevsky's wounds. Notably, Lysohor did not hold back in pointing fingers at Russia for the attempted assassination, alleging their dissatisfaction with Afanasevsky, although his claims lack substantive evidence. This incident arrives amidst a contentious backdrop where Moscow-supported authorities are orchestrating local elections in various Ukrainian regions that were illicitly annexed the previous year. These regions include not only Luhansk, but also Donetsk, Kherson, and Zaporizhzhia. Russia's practice of holding such elections, deemed unlawful under the global legal framework, further deepens the chasm between the two nations and brings attention to the larger geopolitical strife in the region. The Bradley fighting vehicles on Ukraine's treacherous pathways, a symbol of endurance and hope. In the picturesque landscapes of Ukraine's southern Zaporizhzhia region, the T-408 country lane once stood as a testament to tranquility, weaving its way from Orikhiv to Robotyne and culminating in Tokmak. Today, this serene pathway is unrecognizable, having been christened the road to hell by the stalwart men of Ukraine's 47th Mechanized Brigade. Their descriptions paint a haunting panorama of war. A perpetually drone-darkened sky, the air rent with the echoes of artillery and aerial assaults, and once fertile farmlands now littered with treacherous Russian trenches, mines, and fortified positions. Yet, amidst this chaos, the brigade remains undeterred in its mission to advance southwards. Robotyne, once a bustling village with a population of 500, has become a strategic linchpin in Ukraine's southern counteroffensive. Its seizure has not only bolstered Ukrainian morale, but has intensified Russian aggression. Where children once played and communities thrived, now lies a ravaged wasteland bearing the scars of relentless drone strikes and artillery barrages. In a particularly poignant discovery amidst this desolation, Ukrainian soldiers found resilient civilians, their spirits unbroken despite weeks of confinement in their basements. Their subsequent evacuation turned the spotlight on the life-saving capabilities of the U.S.-made Bradley fighting vehicles. These armored behemoths supplied to the Ukrainian forces have proven invaluable. Whether maneuvering through enemy territory, shielding civilians from unyielding enemy fire, bearing the brunt of artillery, the Bradleys have repeatedly showcased their mettle. When CNN reporters were presented with evidence of the severe artillery damages these vehicles had sustained, the soldiers' admiration for these machines was palpable. Nonetheless, every silver lining has a cloud. The Bradley's unique whistle, while acting as a beacon of hope for some, inadvertently reveals its position, presenting both strategic advantages and challenges. As Karatsupa insightfully points out, the tides of war spare none, and even the most robust of armored vehicles are not invincible. However, as long as they rumble on, they remain a beacon of hope and resilience on Ukraine's perilous pathways. The lethal legacy of cluster munitions in Ukraine, a plea for global action. Cluster munitions have long been considered one of the most insidious and indiscriminate weapons in modern warfare. Their devastating impact was once again brought into sharp focus with the revelation by Human Rights Watch these deadly devices killed or injured a staggering 890 individuals in Ukraine in 2022 alone. The harrowing statistics suggest that nearly 95 of these victims were civilians, placing them amongst the most vulnerable in conflict zones. Cluster munitions, notorious for their capacity to unleash a wide array of bomblets across expansive areas, are as unpredictable as they're destructive. While their immediate fallout is undeniably catastrophic, the latent threat they pose is equally alarming. Unexploded bomblets metamorphose into de facto landmines, lying in wait for unsuspecting victims, often for years post-conflict. It is this dual threat that makes these weapons especially reprehensible. In light of these findings, HERA's annual Cluster Munition Coalition report has become an even more crucial testament to the worldwide impact of these weapons. It is disconcerting to note that globally, cluster munitions claimed or harmed at least 987 lives in 2022, a record high since HERA began its monitoring in 2010. This report not only underscores the urgency of addressing this issue, but also brings to the fore contentious revelations about Ukraine's use of cluster munitions supplied by the U.S. in its pushback against Russian aggression. While the Convention on Cluster Munitions, ratified or signed by 124 nations in 2008, represents a significant step towards a global ban on these weapons, major players, including the U.S., Ukraine, and Russia, remain conspicuously absent from its signatories. Jar, as a core member of the Cluster Munition Coalition Group, has rightly emphasized the imperativeness of universal adherence to this convention. Laurie Wareham, the Arms Advocacy Director at Shaw, poignantly encapsulated the gravity of the situation, stating the sheer immorality of continuing civilian casualties from cluster munitions even a decade and a half post their prescription. It's a poignant reminder that global action against such weapons isn't just a political or strategic move, but a moral and humanitarian imperative.